Hi, it's a very excited Suzy Rhoades with PassMasters here to tell you all about NASAA's brand new study guides. So in the over 20 years that I have been training people to pass NASAA exams, never before have they had any more than their content outlines. So here we are with some study guides. So they have a press release. NASAA debuts new resources for qualification exams. For the first time, NASAA has published exam guides with this level of detail. Super exciting. This is the Series 63 information page on the NASAA website. I will put a link in this video's description to this as well. Historically, all we've ever gotten was the outline. As you can see, the outline was most recently updated June 12th of 2023, and this is how I know what to include within my PassMasters course. So it does have some information for me to go off of, sure, but now we have a study guide. There'll be a link to the study guide in this video's description as well. So this was put together September 1st, even though it is not September 1st when they released this. It has some information for you, so I would highly suggest you read through this whole thing. The study guide talks about the federal laws and the state laws that are included within the agent exam. So Series 63 by itself is not a product license, but most states you are required to pass the agent exam in order to register in that state to sell securities. So we have the Securities Act of 1933, the Securities Exchange Act of 34, so they say SA and SEA. I commonly say the Paper Act and People Act, Investment Advisors Act of 1940, the SEC, and FINRA. So these are all included within the test, as well as the Uniform Securities Act of 1956, and NASAA Model Rules, Statements of Policy, and Model Acts. You do not have to know everything. This reminds you. The Series 63 exam evaluates a test taker's knowledge of 8 general subject matters relevant to the work of broker-dealer agents. The test specifications for Series 63, the 8 subject matters tested in the examination and the respective weighting of each subject matter are contained in Part 2 below. Part 2 also identifies specific federal and state securities laws and rules. It has here a link to the Uniform Securities Act of 1956, which is on NASAA's website. I'm not saying you need to go there. I do that for you. That's how I make the course. The test itself has 65 multiple choice questions. There are 60 that count, 5 are pre-test questions. You have 75 minutes to complete the exam. Everybody taking the test will have a different version of the test. To pass the test, you need to get 43 out of the 60 questions correct. It is closed book, of course. Scratch paper may be used, will be provided upon request. You will be notified whether you pass or fail. If you fail, you will find out how you did in each of the sections of the exam. You will never be told your score on specific questions, nor will the text of any questions be disclosed. The 63 exam is administered through FINRA's Test Enrollment Services system. Talks about if you fail, you have to wait 30 days, another 30 days on the second attempt, and then after the third attempt, if you do not pass, it is 180 days, 6 months. I don't ever want you to get to that, so please ask me anything. NASAA is comprised of securities regulators from the United States, Canada, and Mexico. U.S. members include regulators from all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. They've been working together to protect investors and regulate state securities markets for over 100 years. Now, I think this is interesting. I don't know why this is not in the same order as the content outline, but it's not. Regulation of broker-dealers, it's the same information. 12%, 7 questions. Regulation of broker-dealer agents, 13%, 8 questions. Ethical practices and obligations, this is the largest part of the test, 25%. 15 questions. Communication with customers and prospects, 20%, 12 questions. Regulation of securities and issuers, 9%, 5 questions. Regulation of investment advisors, 5%, 3 questions. Regulation of investment advisor representatives, 5%, 3 questions. And revenues and administrative provisions, 11%, 7 questions. It's not going to care. The test is not going to care if it's a NASA Model Act, Model Rule, or a statement of policy. It's not going to be questions that specific. It's, do you understand the ones that are most important that you should know as an agent? I think this is important. Finally, candidates should note that examination questions may or may not reference the specific concept or legal rule being tested. For example, a question intended to test a candidate's knowledge of the NASAA's statement of policy on dishonest or unethical business practices of broker-dealers and agents may or may not actually name the statement of policy as part of the question. In addition, questions may refer generally to an area of law. A question that begins under the Uniform Securities Act, therefore, might be testing the literal text of the Uniform Securities Act of 1956 as amended by NASA, or it might be testing a NASA model rule promulgated thereunder. Similarly, a question that says pursuant to the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 could be testing the text of the statute or an SEC rule promulgated thereunder. Candidates are expected to know the concepts and legal principles enumerated below without necessarily being prompted as to which concept or principle is being tested. So here is the details that I've always wished for, right? So when I put together the course, I've always had to look and figure out what were they wanting me to put in there, and here it's telling you this is what it is. So I'm super excited about all of this. So the actual Securities Exchange Act, Section 15, Uniform Securities Act, Sections 201 to 204. You don't have to look these up. I did this for you. So here's just some information about what the test is on. So even though this is a state securities law exam, you might very likely have questions on FINRA rules. For example, payments to unregistered persons, that's FINRA Rule 2040. SEC regulation best interest. Legal standards for whether a financial instrument is a security under the well-known Howey test. Did you invest with the expectation that by the management of a third party, you will have more money in the end? That is a summary of the Howey test. That helps us to know what is a security. They give you a consolidated list of testable subjects. And then we end with a disclaimer. This document is intended to be an overview of the Uniform Security Agent state law examination, which will contain specific and challenging questions in these subjects. Accordingly, this guide should not be considered a substitute for thorough study and preparation. That's why you need the PassMasters course. Oh, I hope you can see what a nerd I am, because this is so exciting to me. If you have any questions at all about this new study guide or any questions about the Series 63 exam in general, just ask me in the comments below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn those notifications on. Thank you so much for watching. Happy studies. Study, 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 pass!